For generations, retirement was supposed to be part of the deal. The American dream, right? You work hard, you save up, and then you get to enjoy your golden years. But for millions of people today, that dream, well, it feels more like a really high-stakes gamble. So what on earth happened? Let's get into it and really unpack the reality of the great American retirement system. So let's start by just diving right into the emotional and, of course, the financial reality that so many Americans are facing right now. It's really a story about anxiety, about uncertainty, and about a system that for a lot of people just feels completely broken. This quote from a Frontline documentary just gets to the absolute heart of it, doesn't it? For so many, retirement planning isn't about fancy spreadsheets and projections. It's literally about hope and prayer. And that feeling, it captures this widespread anxiety that the whole promise of a secure retirement is just slipping through our fingers. And that anxiety, it's absolutely fueled by some pretty scary real-world volatility. This number right here, $3.4 trillion. That's the estimated amount that was just wiped clean from American retirement accounts in only the first 6 months of 2022. It's just a brutal reminder that when your entire future is tied to the market, it can feel like it could vanish in an instant. And, the numbers paint a picture that goes way beyond just market swings. I mean, look at this. Half of all Americans say they flat out can't afford to save for retirement. A third have almost no savings at all. And maybe craziest of all, nearly 1 in 3 seniors are now planning to work past age 70 or just never retire. The whole traditional path we were all told about, it's just not working for a massive part of the population. So, the big question is, how did we get here? Well, this wasn't some kind of accident. It was actually a slow, pretty deliberate transfer of risk. A buildup of responsibility that ended up landing, well, squarely on the shoulders of the individual. And this table just illustrates that shift perfectly. In the old pension system, the company took on all the risk. They were the ones who promised you a guaranteed check for life. You didn't have to be a financial genius. You just had to show up and work. But today, with the 401k, you, the individual, you bear all the market risk. Your payout is completely up in the air, and suddenly you're expected to be your own expert fund manager. It's what the experts call the great risk shift. Now, here's a really fascinating bit of history for you. The 401k, the absolute bedrock of our modern retirement system, was never, ever intended to be used this way. It actually started as this tiny niche loophole in the tax code for high-paid executives to stash away some money. It was basically an accident of history that it ballooned into the default retirement plan for over 60 million Americans. Wild, right? Okay, so you've accepted all this new risk, you're diligently saving in your 401k, you feel like you're doing everything you're supposed to. But there's another force at play. It's like this invisible drain on your savings that can be every bit as damaging as a huge market crash. Right, so we put our money into these funds and we just assume it's all working for us, right? It's growing in the market. But what if I told you there is a leak in the bucket? A slow, steady drain that just compounds year after year, decade after decade, often without you even realizing it. It's called the expense ratio. It's the fee you pay to have your mutual fund managed, and it gets deducted right from your assets every single year. The legendary investor Jack Bogle, he called this the tyranny of compounding cost, because while the percentage looks so small, its effect over a lifetime is absolutely devastating. Let's just walk through Bogle's classic example to see how this works. Imagine you invest $100,000 for 50 years. Let's say the market gives you a nice 7% average return. But there's a catch. Your fund charges what sounds like a small 2% annual fee. You might think, okay, so I get a 5% return. Sounds simple, right? Well, the reality is so much more punishing than that. The answer? 63%. No, that is not a typo. 63%. Over your lifetime, that tiny 2% fee doesn't just reduce your gains, it devours nearly 2/3 of your potential nest egg. The magic of compounding returns we always hear about, it gets completely overwhelmed by the tyranny of compounding costs. All right, now let's pull the camera lens back even further, because beyond our individual accounts and these hidden fees, there is a massive, once-in-a-generation economic storm brewing, and it's all being driven by demographics. The way some macro investors see it, this whole story really starts with the baby boomers. We're talking about the largest, wealthiest generation in history. And since the post-war era, our entire economy was basically built around one thing: getting them to spend. And of course, Wall Street had the perfect solution. The message was really simple. Hey, don't worry about saving 20% of your income. Just give us a little bit, we'll put it in the stock market, and our magic will turn it into way more. And it worked. It fueled the biggest stock market boom in history, but it also tied an entire generation's future to a very, very high-risk bet. But here's the catch. Those huge average wealth numbers you hear about, they're totally skewed by the ultra-rich. The median household, the one right in the statistical middle, tells a totally different story. The median household has just $45,000 in stocks. This massive gap forces them to take on more and more risk just to have a shot at catching up. And all of this creates a truly terrifying collision course. You've got the largest generation, the boomers, taking the most risk they've ever taken in their lives. And they're doing it at the exact moment the stock market is priced at historic highs, and the normal economic cycle suggests a recession is overdue. It really is a perfect storm. This quote just nails the danger perfectly. This has never happened before. A market crash right now wouldn't just be some temporary dip they can recover from. No. For a whole generation on the very brink of retirement, it would be a permanent, devastating wipeout of their life savings, with zero time to earn it back. So, we've seen the shift in risk, we've seen the hidden fees, and now this demographic time bomb. What does this all mean for the state of retirement today? I mean, are we really in a crisis? So, is it a full-blown crisis? Well, experts are really split on this. On one side, you have people pointing to the tens of millions with no savings, predicting a future with widespread poverty among seniors. But on the other side, some analysts point to the data and say, hey, thanks to soaring asset prices, the average retiree's wealth has never been higher. They argue the system is actually fundamentally working. But look, whether you call it a crisis or not, one thing is crystal clear. The old promise, the one where your retirement was guaranteed by your employer, that is gone. It's been replaced by this do-it-yourself system where you, and you alone, bear all the risk. You have to navigate the hidden fees, you have to ride the waves of the market. The fundamental gamble has shifted from the company to the individual. And that leaves all of us wondering, in this new reality, what does the promise of retirement even mean anymore?